So let me see if I can understand this. Ariel Helwani, who's one of the top-notch interviewers, podcasters out there today, basically went on a rant about his interview with Tony Khan being one of the most frustrating interviews he's ever had in his entire career. Mainly for the fact that Tony Khan did not basically answer, the questions he wanted him to answer, or at least give some kind of answer that was satisfactory. And look, I get the fact that in his thing, I completely understand, where people are coming from when they say this, but I get the fact that, Ariel Helwani shouldn't have asked certain questions, knowing that due to the legal scenario behind the scenes, the litigation behind the scenes, when it came to these questions that he was asking Tony Khan, Ariel should have known he wasn't going to get any answer, or any straight answer at all. Mainly because there's too much, intertwined, if you will, when it comes to what's going on behind the scenes. And that's true for any situation. It's true for any situation. Anytime CBS, ABC, Fox News, NBC News, anytime they go out and try to interview somebody and get answers maybe that they feel that person will know about a certain scenario, even though they could probably pretty much know they're not going to get the answer they want, they at least go out and try to see if maybe they will get lucky and get an answer, or at least get some kind of clarification or verification of what's going on. And with TK, with Tony, he didn't give Ariel those kind of answers. Yeah, he promoted the product. He even let it slip that CM Punk has an office job, which is probably not the best thing to say in an interview like that, because that could be a huge can of worms to talk about in the future, video, audio video, or podcast, for myself and anybody else to talk about and to touch upon. Even though, Tony did, answer some questions and stuff that I guess Ariel felt was satisfactory, he didn't give Ariel the interview that Ariel was hoping for, because Ariel, from what I can tell, from what I have seen, is the kind of guy that, the reason he's looked at as one of the top-notch, if not the top-notch interviewers in, combat sports and overall sports, period, here on YouTube, in various podcast areas like Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor, and all that, is because he likes to ask the tough questions. And by asking the tough questions, you hope to at least get some kind of satisfactory answer. And Tony Khan didn't do that. Tony Khan did not do that. And what frustrates him is for Tony Khan to, as he points out in the clip that's out there on social media, I think what really frustrates him is Tony Khan is acting more like, as he puts it, a super fan instead of acting like a real owner, a real boss, someone that, would be at least, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? At least compatible enough to, give some kind of answer. Like, don't try to cover it up and make everything look like all wine and roses and kumbaya, my lord, and everything, when pretty much everybody knows what's really going on. All Ariel Helwani wanted from him was a simple answer of yes or no. And the fact that he couldn't talk about the whole CM Punk, Young Bucks thing and Kenny Omega thing, that whole debacle, okay, that's understandable. Ariel Helwani should have known. But again, I think what Helwani wanted was at least some kind of answer of, well, how did you feel, Tony Khan, about CM Punk going off when he did in the media scrum, and you're just sitting there, what was going through your mind? That's kind of what he wanted, and Tony Khan wouldn't even give him that. So, so it's understandable for Ariel Helwani to be frustrated, because the way I look at it is he's the kind of journalist that no matter who you are, doesn't matter if you're Tony Khan, doesn't matter if you're Triple H, doesn't matter if you're Stephanie McMahon, doesn't matter if you're the higher-ups of Anthem Sports or Scott D'Amore on their behalf, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is going to lock eyes with you. He's going to bring you on, and he's going to ask you the tough questions, and you need to be ready for them. Yes, is it respectful enough to go over certain questions to make sure they're okay with the person before you interview them? And if they say, that's cool, I'm good with those, then you have no problem ahead of you. But if you decide to show them the questions, and one of them is a question they're not comfortable of asking, and you're like, okay, well, what about the other questions? They say that one's all right, but then in the interview, you decide to sneak that question that they were uncomfortable with in to try to get an answer, because you got them right then and there, front and center for the world to see. That's very unprofessional. That is basically being disrespectful yourself to your interviewee. That's being very disrespectful. And maybe Tony Khan, probably, felt in a way disrespectful with, because Ariel was asking him these questions, and he just could, and obviously probably feeling like, wait a minute, I can't answer that. He probably didn't say that to him, but he's thinking in his mind, wait a minute, he knows I can't answer that. Why is he asking me these questions? These are not the questions he should be asking. So maybe in his mind, he probably felt disrespected, and that's why he gave the answer he did, because he knew, hey, if I tell him I can't answer that, I can't answer that, no, I can't say this, I can't say that. Tony Khan knew that, okay, wait a minute, this guy's asking me something that I can't give an answer to, so you know what? I'm going to retaliate by giving him an answer of, I can't comment. And that's what pretty much frustrated Ariel Helwani. The fact that Tony Khan saw what he was doing, and being who he is, whether you like the guy or you don't, quickly came to the conclusion, okay, you want to try to bombard me with these questions? Try to get me to answer questions I can't answer? I'm going to bombard you with answers that you don't like, that I know is going to frustrate you, and that's what he did. And that's why Ariel Helwani went off the way he did. Now look, Ariel Helwani has nothing but love for the AEW product. He's pretty much confirmed that. But again, he's the kind of guy that expects that when you come on his show as a guest to get at least some kind of a resemblance of an answer. May not be the answer we all want or he wants, but some kind of answer to his question. That's all he wants, because obviously him doing this for over a decade, he was probably taught in school when he was when he went going to get a degree for this, because he obviously had to. He was probably taught and trained in school and various other broadcast jobs or interview jobs that you need to ask the hard-hitting questions. That the one thing that's going to get attention on you, it's going to get people to probably respect you, is to ask the hard-hitting questions. And that's what Ariel's doing. He's asking the hard-hitting questions. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a Triple H, a Stephanie McMahon, a Scott D'Amore representing Anthem Sports and Impact Wrestling, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. It doesn't matter to him if you're Dana freaking White, the president and owner of UFC. It doesn't matter if you're Dana White, okay? It doesn't matter to him if you're Joe Rogan. He's going to ask you the hard-hitting questions, and being the guy that invites you on, he hopes and realize, hey, I'm going to get hit with these questions. I need to be ready to give some kind of answer, as best of my ability. It may not be the answer he wants, or anybody else that's watching his or listening to his podcast wants or expects, but I need to be prepared to give an answer to the best of my abilities. And I think that's basically where Ariel Helwani needs to kind of work on his on his interview system. He needs to realize that things are different from a decade ago when he started doing this. Because nowadays you just can't expect people to come onto a show and answer questions, answer questions to questions that they may not be comfortable with, answering because, they either can't say due to legal means, or maybe they can't say because they don't want to spoil or anything, or that's digging too much into information you don't need to dig into. So when I look at this situation, I understand where Ariel Helwani is coming from. Because if you're somebody that, and let's not deny this, okay? Let's not deny this, period. When you are somebody, that's doing an interview, yes. Excuse me there. But when you do an interview, yes, like Alex Hicks, who talks about this, because he's done several interviews with wrestlers and people that work in the business or have contacts in the business, and he's got other interviews lined up for the future. One of the things Alex Hicks, just Alex, does is he makes sure to send the questions to the people he's going to interview to see if it's okay for those to be the questions he can ask them. And if they say, okay, that's good, I'm cool with it, then fine. But you cannot tell me that it doesn't frustrate an Alex Hicks that deep down he wants to, and I say this with all due respect to Alex, I really do, because I'm a fan and follower and supporter of his work. But you can't tell me that it doesn't frustrate Alex Hicks that he can't ask the questions he knows he would like the answers to, and by extension he knows as his followers and listeners we would like the answers to. You can't tell me it doesn't frustrate him, because he does. But he's realizing that, hey, I'm new to this, so I got to be careful what I do. And he's trying to get to a point that, over time, once he gets more comfortable with it and he gets more contacts with wrestlers or people in the business, the more he's going to feel confident enough to be like, okay, I want to get an answer to this certain question because of this certain scenario, but how do I do it that makes it feel comfortable for that person I'm interviewing, that they'd be willing to at least give me some kind of answer? That's what he's working towards. He's not trying to be, someone like an Ariel Helwani, who obviously, like I said, went to school for this and was trained as well to answer the hard-hitting, to ask the hard-hitting questions that sometimes may seem uncomfortable to ask, or you shouldn't be asking, but if you ask those questions, hopefully you'll get some kind of answer. Alex is not like that. Chris Van Pleet, I don't think is like that either. But, Ariel Helwani is. That's a big difference. He is that way. And, let's be honest. We have seen examples throughout the past several years of, reporters interviewing, a lot of figures in sports, politics, entertainment, that when they start trying to get that hard-hitting question answered, it gets under the skin of the person they're interviewing, to the point that the person will sometimes take off the mic, or basically unclip the mic on their shirt and say, look, enough. I don't want to answer that. You're asking too many questions you shouldn't be asking. This interview is done. And that person that they're interviewing will walk off in frustration. And in turn, you know what it does? It frustrates the person that was interviewing them because, because they think, okay, everything was going smooth. But as soon as they tried to get the answers that they knew they wanted and everybody else wanted, with the questions they knew that need to be answered, it becomes frustrating to them because it's like, okay, now where do I go from here? What do I do at my next interview? And sometimes that basically will cause them to get a reputation of not being allowed any more interviews at all because they don't know when to keep their mouths shut. Basically, when it comes to asking certain questions, like just stick to the questions that you know is going to be comfortable with that person, and then that's it. Don't try to do any more than that. Period. Don't try to do any more than that. Period. And like I said, we have seen this over the past several years with countless interviews from across the board. CBS, ABC, Fox News, NBC, CNN, you name it, Newsmax, News Nation, you name it. Every place, every news channel that has come out and tried to answer or try to ask certain questions to certain people, sometimes they'll get some resemblance of answer that they feel is satisfactory, but sometimes they won't, and it will result in frustration, either because that person walked out on the interview because they don't want to deal with it anymore, because you're getting under their nerves because you're answering or asking questions you shouldn't be asking, or the fact that it basically, they'll go through and finish the interview, but they won't, throughout it, give you the answers you want. Or they'll threaten to walk out if you don't stop asking those questions. And in a way, like I mentioned earlier, it gets under their skin and they get frustrated and they somehow, either on social media or whatever, let their feelings be known. Or they just keep it to themselves and they kind of tell their family or their coworkers, yeah, this guy pissed me off or this girl pissed me off because of the fact that they weren't giving me the answers I was hoping they'd give me because they knew I was going to probably ask these questions and they were avoiding it as much as they could. Or they just walked out on me. I mean, we've seen it when people have interviewed former President Trump. We've seen it when people have interviewed other political figures, from, senators, vice presidents, House representatives. We've seen this. And this is something that a lot of reporters, not just Ariel Helwani, but a lot of reporters need to realize. Yes, it's great you want to ask the hard-hitting questions. It's great you want to get the answers we all would love to have, including yourself. But what you need to realize is when you're interviewing certain people and you're trying to ask them certain questions about things they can't really comment on, that maybe what you need to do is look at that next question and be like, okay, you got to think to yourself for a moment, okay, I want to ask him that or ask her that, but I can't because they may not give me the answer I want or they can't answer, period. And you know what you do? You just remove that question from the equation. That's all you do. That's all you do. But again, Ariel Helwani is one of those kind of people that won't do it. He will just basically start asking the hard-hitting questions whether you want to answer them or not. He's going to ask those hard-hitting questions. And when you go on his show, you need to expect that. So the way I look at it, and I might get some flack for this. But the way I look at it, folks, both men are at fault. Both men are at fault. Ariel Helwani is at fault for, not realizing that he can't ask those kind of questions because of what's going on legally. Behind the scenes between Punk, and the elite. He can't ask those questions to Tony because Tony is legally binded not to answer them until he's given the okay. He should have known better about that. He should have taken those questions out of the equation. And Tony Khan, he's at fault because he should have known, hey, I'm going to be a guest on Ariel Helwani, and many people on my roster that have been a guest there as well, no, he likes to ask the hard-hitting questions, and I need to be prepared for that. I need to be prepared to answer those questions in a way that doesn't get me in trouble legally, but will satisfy that person or satisfy Ariel in a way to where he won't feel disrespected or whatever, or will be satisfactory to him. So both men, in my opinion, are at fault. Ariel for not, realizing that, hey, he can't, Tony won't be able to answer the questions you want to try to ask him, these hard-hitting ones about what's going on, with Punk and, the Elite and all that, and da-da-da. Ariel's at fault for not realizing that, and he should have just avoided those questions, throughout the entire interview period. And Tony Khan, in my opinion, is at fault because he should have known better that going on to Ariel Helwani's show, Ariel was going to ask these kind of questions, and he should have known, and he should have been more prepared to be ready to answer them in some way that wouldn't cause like some kind of backlash like what we're getting right now from Ariel Helwani towards Tony Khan, and the backlash Ariel Helwani's getting from everybody on social media and abroad. So, to me, both men are at fault. Both men are at fault. But, if Ariel Helwani gets another crack to interview Tony in the future again, my advice to Ariel Helwani, if the investigation is still going on behind the scenes and nothing is resolved, and you still want to try to get answers about that, take those questions and put them away, file them for future interviews or whatever until things are cleared up. And you should do that with any other future interview you have that might be with someone that's involved in a legal situation they can't say anything about. Take whatever questions you want to ask about it and put it to the side until further notice. And just go on with the interview without, trying to dig into that. That's my advice. And Tony Khan, I don't know if he listens to this, but if he does, my advice to you, my friend, next time you go on a show like Ariel Helwani's, knowing that person might ask you the hard-hitting questions, like what's going on, from a legal standpoint with like the Elite and Punk, my advice to you, be better prepared so you don't frustrate the interviewer to the point that they're going to go on the platform and pretty much rant and pretty much vent the frustrations out on you. And, and thus make a comparison of saying, yeah, WWE is better than AEW. Do you want that to always happen? No. So you need to be more prepared for someone like an Ariel Helwani in the future, Tony. Be more prepared to give answers that may not be what they expect, but they could look at as satisfactory. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much my advice to both men. But again, I get where Ariel Helwani's frustration is coming from, but I also get where everybody else's, frustration with him is coming because he should have known better. But like I said, I truly believe both men are at fault for not being properly ready or prepared for what both were going to encounter here with each other. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Super chat, super stickers are open during the premiere in the live chat, and super thanks afterwards. You can check me out at BEW Wrestlers Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations, except for Pandora, where this may show up as well, so you can listen to it there. But guys, give me your thoughts, odds, and until next time, I am out. Also check out the Teespring store.